pancreas cancer, and something that especially Dr. Susan Tsai and her whole team and many others are working on is a way to make sure that the treatments that all of you were lucky enough to receive would be more available to everyone else. So thank you all for coming. I'll see you tonight.
Thank you, Doug. Second base. We need great supportive care, and many of you have been the beneficiaries. So when we're in trouble making sure that people are comfortable getting their therapies, making sure that people are taking their Creon in the right way, because that's been a major change for folks, we call on another great nurse practitioner, and we got quite a few here today, Gail Jamieson. Gail, would you like to say a few words? She's the best.
Thank you, Dan. So it's really my privilege to be here, and you'll notice, although this is the meeting with the doctors, I am not a physician. I am a nurse practitioner, and I've been very blessed to work with these wonderful, wonderful physicians and nurses who are here today, but especially blessed from all of you. And many of you in the audience are patients, friends, missing some folks that we wish were here, but I'm just so thrilled to be here. I first want to just say something that we are very proud of, and this was just announced last week. So many of you are familiar with the triplet regimen, the Abraxane, gemcitabine, cisplatin, which did come out of Honor Health, and with Dr. Von Hoff, Dr. Borzanski's leadership, we actually took the two drugs that some of you have gotten, the Abraxane, gemcitabine, and we added cisplatin. And some of you know, you've been on studies that Dr. Borzanski has led, where we've even added more drugs to that triplet foundation. But we learned in February that the triplet has now been accepted on the National Cancer Guidelines, which is a big deal. And the reason it's a big deal is for the patients, because insurance companies have had the opportunity to decline patients getting this treatment because it wasn't on the National Cancer Comprehensive Network guidelines. And so it really is a big deal. And so what we saw is from taking the two drugs where we saw improvement, again, led by Dr. Von Hoff, the gemcitabine and Abraxane, that we saw a response rate of about 23%, meaning people felt better, their tumor shrunk, and the survival was about 8.5 months. With adding this low dose of this third drug, cisplatin, we had doubled that in the original study that we published in JAMA Oncology in 2020. And what we saw is the median overall survival went from 8.5 months to 16.5 months. The response rate went from 23% to 71%. And But that said, it's not good enough. It's progress, and we're glad that it's out there, but that's why we still need more research. Do we do more with this triplet base? Do we do other things? You know, certainly there's a lot of exciting research, but thank you to those who have participated in our trials. And I just want to say a word about supportive care, because I'm very privileged to be not only an investigator on our drug studies, but also leading some supportive care studies. And you know, I'm blessed that we work with the team, and I'm glad that there are nurses and nurse practitioners here from Miami, that it's really the support that we give patients to get through these treatments. These are tough treatments. And if somebody's not managing your nausea, if somebody's not helping you with digestive issues, if somebody's not coaching you, and I have to say that when I started working with Dr. Von Hoff 16 years ago, he said to me during my first week of working with him, "Gail, if any of your patients vomit, you are fired." Well, I'm still here, and I know some of you are going to say, "Gail, you shouldn't be." But that really, it taught me that we have to take all of your symptoms seriously. And we have to look at those things such as the GI symptoms. We have to look at the neuropathy from these chemotherapy drugs. And we are continuing to look at that. I had the privilege of leading a study that we'll be publishing soon, looking at not drugs, but looking at an intervention with occupational therapy to try and minimize the neuropathy from some of the chemo drugs that some of you have had. So my mission at this point is I think that a lot of patients now will have access to this triplet therapy, but they may be in the hands of people who haven't treated a lot of patients with pancreas cancer or treated patients on this particular regimen. And really the nurses and the physicians need to understand why people need hydration, why they need the best anti-nausea medicines that are out there. So you all inspire me. Thank you so much for being here, and I look forward to talking to you this evening.
Thank you, Gail. The definition of a great nurse, but of course, nurse practitioner, even so, is that if you have a doctor and nurse in the room, who's the first one to leave? The doctor. Who's the last one to leave? The nurse, right? Because they stick with the patient always. So let's see, we're on to second base. Now we're on to third base. And third base is kind of a new approach to therapy, and that's immune oncology. And we really have a great expert in that, also a great physician from the University of Miami, Peter Hussein. So Peter, would you say a few words, please?
Good morning, everyone. So it's a real privilege to be here today, and I feel humbled to be in the presence of this podium and also in the presence of such great stories. And when everybody was going around the room this morning giving their story, I couldn't help but thinking about some of the people that we wish were here today. And I'm very close to Natalie. I know many of you know Natalie, and her husband was larger than life. I wish he was standing here today to give the same story that some of you had. And we have Janine in the room. I don't know where Janine, I think she's somewhere right here. I really wish that some of the treatments that we have available today and some of the things that we're developing could have benefited people who are not here today. And that's the real motivation why we are doing what we're doing. And what I'm most excited about is not really so much immunotherapy, and we can talk a little bit about that, but the collaboration that you see on the stage here has not been something that has happened to date in pancreas cancer research in the US. And now, in addition to this collaboration that we have, we're seeing a lot more consortiums coming together through PanCan and trying to streamline research so that we don't have people in one area doing something and somebody else doing something else and people trying to compete to get a name. What we are doing here and what a lot of people are doing now is to try to come together to make a difference faster, right? Because we can't take 12 years or 15 years to bring a treatment from the lab to the clinic. It's just that's not acceptable. So the thing that I'm most excited about is the collaboration that we have, because it's really, I think, that the way forward. You have surgeons, oncologists, many different specialties, and people from other sciences like math and this kind of thing that will really help us move forward. So my main area of interest and research in pancreas cancer is immunotherapy, and I can't think of a single patient that has come through my door that didn't ask about immunotherapy. And I think about it right now in two ways. One is for a subgroup of patients with BRCA mutations. We have at least one patient in the room that I know with a BRCA mutation, and it seems like those patients are exquisitely sensitive to immunotherapy, and we have some work coming out soon on that. And we're developing larger studies to try to prove and validate that. We're also doing some lab research in that arena, and we hope that this is something that we can make inroads in that subgroup. But of course, 95% of patients with pancreas cancer do not have BRCA mutations. So a lot of people are deflated in the room when I tell them, well, your germline testing did not show a BRCA mutation, because they think that was their one shot to beat the disease. But we are also working on the majority of people who have what we refer to as immune cold tumors. So if you look at cancers as a whole, there's some tumors that are referred to as hot tumors that are inflamed and they are primed for immunotherapy response. But pancreas cancer is actually one of the coldest tumors that you can find. Most patients, when there's a scale that we have called TMB, and TMB, the higher you go, the more unstable the tumor is and the more likely you're to respond to immunotherapy. And many times we get genetic reports back with a TMB of 0. And I have a deep sigh whenever I see a TMB of 0 in a patient. So we're trying to find ways of making cold tumors into hot tumors. And we believe that we have some strategies that we are bringing out into clinical trials very soon, within the next few months. We have some studies that are looking at modulating the microenvironment of the tumor by giving some drugs and then adding immunotherapy to it. And we're not the only one doing that. There are many groups doing this, and we're trying to work together to accelerate the progress. So again, I'm very, very privileged, and I hope to be able to interact with you all a little more tonight, but I'm very happy to be here, and thank you all for having me.
Well, thank you, Peter. I don't think most people realize that when some of the regimens were put together, you don't get support. There is no support from the pharmaceutical industry unless you have some promising information. And I want to just remind everyone that if it wouldn't have been for Roger Magowitz, we wouldn't have many of these things today, no question. We never want to forget Roger. That's right. And Jean, too, and a few German shepherds in between, yeah, that's for sure. Keep great comfort. Well, let's see, we're at third base, we've covered, and now we're home plate, right? And there's a young man over here to my left, Dr. B, you referred to him, Dr. Borazanci, who actually has created the Grand Slam regimen. So we had the triple, and then we had the Grand Slam regimen. And Erkat, I wonder if you'd say a word or two, please, what you're excited about. And watch out, he's from LSU, and he's still high on the championship. There we go.
Go Tigers. Thanks, Dan, and good morning, everybody. And again, this is just great to see everyone in this one room. I came here because I met Dan 10 years ago. He led the AACR Pancreas Cancer Conference in Lake Tahoe and gave the opening talk, and it was mind-blowing how someone could take the science and apply it to patients immediately. And I realized that night after I heard him talk, this is where I'm going to. So I appreciate that and appreciate the work and the mentorship over the last several years and the friendship. This is a picture of what we're really accomplishing, is that the exciting things that we have been seeing in the clinic and looking at very aggressive disease. As Gail mentioned, it's been a milestone to get a combination regimen thanks to the Magowitz Foundation support on guidelines, and then we've built upon that, and this will be published in the near future very soon, a combination of 5 different drugs where we've seen an 84% response rate in stage 4 pancreas cancer. And again,